Hello everyone. So I am joining you at the moment to just share with you a little bit of the content that is currently available on Suffolk Learning. So here we are on the early years homepage. First of all, I would like to just highlight that the stuff above this green line here, these are all links to the bigger, broader parts of Suffolk Learning. All of the early years stuff is contained in the early years homepage. I would also warn you that this search engine doesn't just search the earlier section. So if you put in a word like planning, it will actually search the whole of Suffolk Learning and bring you up lots and lots of planning advice and support, a lot of which won't necessarily be relevant to early years practice. I've also noticed that there is an English as an additional language homepage up there. That's not early years specific. And we have some earlier specific material in our menu down here for EAL. There is additional material up here which might be worth looking at, but that is generally aimed at older children, just to make you aware of that. So once you've found the early years homepage, you notice that on the right hand side there is a menu, and most of what I'm going to be talking about is this menu. This is a great big long menu with lots of little sub menus, and knowing about the sub menus is quite important too. So for navigating, I would always recommend you come and have a look at this menu, but be aware of the arrows on the right hand side of the menu because they do open up additional material and it can be quite problematic if you miss that fact. So for example, if we were looking at one of these pages down the bottom, for example, this recruitment, retention and employment page, if I click on the link on the sort of left side of it, it will automatically open a landing page for recruitment, retention and employment. And you can look and you can see some introductory stuff around that issue. However, you may think, oh, that's it. If I scroll all the way back down, you'll see that what actually happened was it opened up an additional menu, and actually there's some really important resources and material hidden in there. So for example, in that one, you'll see lots and lots of really good documents that support this recruitment and retention roadmap approach that we've got for delivering that stuff. But unless you scrolled all the way down, you wouldn't see it. However, you can open up the menu quite quick and easily by using the little arrow, and you'll see that there are lots of other pages, and some have even more pages hidden below. So I would just recommend keeping an eye on those arrows because it saves you a lot of time and a lot of searching just to know that there is more underneath. My focus today is going to be on quality of education materials because that's what the Learning Wall is generally all about, and the majority of those will be found in this page, which is the EYFS page. And as I said, we can open up and see what sits underneath, and yes, we have another big menu with some additional submenus that are worth knowing about. I'll start at the top with the assessment materials. So I wanted to just show you a few bits and pieces which are in here, which if you haven't seen already, you may find really, really useful. So following the changes that were made to the EYFS over a year ago now, in September 2021, we did some work in having to rethink what assessment might be like in an era where paperwork and the use of age bands was not quite such a heavy focus, moving away from being so dominated by data and looking more at assessing children for who they actually are. So this is a page which I think you can use really fruitfully with your staff, introducing the subject using this video. If you haven't seen this already, I'd like to recommend you sort of have a little look at it because it gives a really interesting introduction to what assessment in this new era of the EYFS is like, and it's quite entertaining, but a good opening starting point for exploring the whole world of assessment. And there are some materials in here to go alongside that, which you could use with your staff in a staff meeting if you so wished. And additionally, there is this second page, assessment in greater depth, where we actually, once these provocations have been sort of considered in that video, you go into the second page and there are some support pages, 5 different sections which look at ways in which you can support yourself and staff to really rethink what assessment for you in your setting or practice is going to be like. So we have assessment, the principles and practices around assessment within the new EOFS and what Ofsted will be looking for as well. We've got a section on how to involve those who know children best, their families, in the process, which is always one of the big challenges in a busy day-to-day life of both the working setting and sort of parents needing to be out at work. We've got a section specifically focused at leaders and managers and the way you support your staff to help them do the best kind of assessment. We have a really lovely section on making sure that the child's voice is heard, whatever their age, from whether they're speaking or not. Make sure that their opinions and views are understood and taken into account. And this section explores not only why that's important, but ways in which you can practice that and incorporate that into your assessment work. And finally, and I'll give you a quick preview of this particular one, just so you know how we've created these sections, the way we've designed them. We've obviously designed them to look, well, they're based on PowerPoint, so you can present them and talk about them with your staff. They do have live links to documents hidden within them so that you can go straight away and see the things that we're referencing, and hopefully are created in a way that makes them user-friendly and structured in a way that helps move the discussion on about the particular area that we're focusing on. You get opportunities to sort of just stop and think about assessment or think about how you support children with special educational needs and understand their needs and plan for them. But also, and probably really importantly in this section, we have provided live links to lots of new assessment material for different needs of children. This was an overall approach which was developed at Pen Green for the Department of Education when the changes came through to the OFS last year. So it gives you an overview of SEND in the new framework. Obviously, we've got our statutory documents which help, but we need sometimes when it comes to early years, we need to get a lot closer and we need to maybe do more assessment and more sort of smaller scale measuring of what children are doing and developing depending on their needs. And so we have collected together a range of nationally recognised high quality assessment tools for you to go and review, depending on whether you're looking at a child who has communication and interaction needs, or cognition and learning needs, SEMH, or physical sensory. So those are the 4 sort of main threads of SEN need. And again, we've provided some questions to help you think about how well you're doing in terms of providing assessment tools for children with SEND. Things maybe you need to think about for developing things further, plus some links through to the sort of most recent courses, although these obviously change over time and we'll have to make sure that we update them so that you've got the most up-to-date information available. So hopefully these 5 sections could be useful for you when working with your staff and thinking about the changes that have been made and the reduction in the levels of assessment and monitoring and progress tracking that we've been doing on paper and on spreadsheets and charts, etc., and sort of think more about what assessment looks like now and how to make it work within your setting so that you understand how to provide for the needs of children. Another section on here I wanted to quickly highlight was planning, and on here we do have some really useful documents which I hope will get you to really think through how you plan within your setting. And again, the aim is to think about what we actually need to do our jobs rather than what we think other people think we need to do our jobs. Ofsted are very clear, they do not want to see bits of paper unless it helps you tell the story of what it is you do and why you do it. But to help with the process, we have documents like this one, which I think is a really useful one, certainly for leaders and managers when going around and talking to their staff about what they're doing and why they're doing it. It's set out into these areas which include the language of curriculum impact, intention and implementation. But it's really just lots and lots of questions to get you really thinking and provoke thought about how you provide what you provide within different areas. You know, children's engagement levels, how deep they're learning, how the breadth of their learning, is the curriculum wide enough, the kinds of skills and knowledge, etc. So hopefully that is a useful one, just a signpost. I know a lot of people use it for things like learning walks, just to give them some prompts of things to ask staff about. And there are lots of other useful documents worth exploring on there, so they've been highlighted. The other thing I really wanted to share with you, which you may or may not be aware of, is the Learning Wall, which is our relatively new approach to sharing information about what is going on in terms of the quality of practice in settings around the county. And it's presented in a slightly different way, and it can sit within the page that we're on, but it is essentially a magazine kind of format. I'll just expand it so it fills the page so you can have a proper look. And if it's just still loading, but there we go. If I start to scroll down, you'll get a sort of flavour. It is like a website in its own right, but it definitely has a magazine format. And once you get past the first page, you get to an index or a contents page, which gives you an idea of the material that's in there. But for accessing it, there is this little button over in the right-hand corner, which if you press it, gives you the content in a nice little menu, which you can then press on and click what you're interested in. So just to give you a flavour, this is the current, well, this is autumn 2022, the edition from then. We have a message from Liz Pitts, a senior member of our team. We have post-pandemic concerns. This is lots of material to support children following the pandemic. You may have seen lots of this material before, but we thought it was really useful to put it all in one place so that people could access it. So there are videos and information on different websites about things that can really help, that can really help you sort of think about how best to support children following the pandemic. This is an article on an issue which we're all aware of is particularly challenging, which is recruitment at the moment for early years jobs. There are lots of unfilled vacancies within the sector, and staff are in a position where they can pick and choose where they work. So, and given the cost of living crisis, a lot of people are choosing to leave the sector to seek employment with better pay rates or terms and conditions. But this article has a look at the kind of support we're trying to put in place to help you with that. So we've got a whole section here on new materials that are available on Suffolk Learning to help you go through with your recruitment process, how to interview appropriately, making job offers, contracts, suitability checks, but also things to do to ensure retention with your staff, appropriate induction, supervision, professional development, etc. So really good section on your side of the piece of work, but we've also been doing work to try and promote the sector and working in the sector, and that's a project which we shall carry on doing, working with colleges and schools and getting our message out there. And there's materials on here that if you have parents or meet people who might be interested in working in early years, that you can share with them as well. So there is a nice PowerPoint slide, which is also available on Suffolk's main website, talking about the profession, but you may find someone who you could share that with. And I know that there are some videos and materials available on this website that, again, you could signpost people to. We also wanted to make the Learning Wall an interactive sort of magazine-y kind of place. So we have started to build in some of these questionnaires. This one, again, is about thinking about the early years profession and trying to think more positively about what we really enjoy and like about it and what inspired us to go come into early years, and it might be a nice thing just to do for the fun of it, just to reflect on your own experience of working in early years and having a go at some of these questions and sharing them with us. And obviously that's done anonymously, but it gives us the chance to share back some of that information perhaps in a future edition. Here's an article about working with children from the Ukraine. We have a number of children arriving in different settings. This is an article specifically about the work that they did with their child that's arrived, and there was another, there was a video interview with a manager at another setting by one of our staff, talking about their experiences and what they've learned along the way and sharing that with you. So this was really just to give you a flavour of the kinds of articles that we're putting into the Learning Wall. And if I take you back to the page on Suffolk Learning, where the Learning Wall is, as we said, on that side of the menu, you'll see if you scroll down that there is an archive for previous editions. And we have another couple of those, which are definitely worth exploring because the content is still very valid and relatively recent. But there's lots more articles that hopefully would be of interest to you and your staff. And I think that's another one of the messages I wanted to give you about Suffolk Learning, is that it's not just a place to go for the practical stuff, such as the broadcast messages or information about your committees or support for committees or how to contact us. So it's not just information for managers, it's information for the whole team. So trying to promote other staff coming on here as well as yourself as managers is really, really good. Obviously, we've got all the send information on here, and there is a wealth of information and supportive guidance and advice on here for your Senkos and other practitioners who are working with children with SEND. So please, again, signpost this to them so that they can see what is available nice and easily, and hopefully support them in their role. And down the bottom, many of you may have already found our current way of offering training. You may be aware that we had some very challenging times when we tried to change, or Suffolk County Council tried to change platforms for its CPD provision. And we decided, in the face of all those challenges, to try using Suffolk Learning as a way of accessing training, finding out about training, applying for courses, etc. So when you go into this training qualifications and how to apply section, you'll see that there are the first 5 sections are how ways of which you can apply for different types of training. So we've got EYFS, child development, we've got leadership management, safeguarding courses, SEND, and in-setting training if you want to have someone come and work directly with you. But there's obviously lots more information in there that, again, I would recommend you spend a little bit of time trying to find out about. There is a latest news section down the bottom, however, that is Suffolk Headlines, which is similar to the broadcast, but designed for schools. We, generally speaking, will take anything out of there which is relevant to early years and put it in the broadcast messages. But if you want to see what information Suffolk County Council is sending out to schools, by all means, go and have a look at the headlines down the bottom. Okay, hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into the wealth of material that's available for supporting you with the quality of education. And obviously, there is a ton of other material on here for other areas of practice and running and being part of a preschool or a nursery or a childminder or being a childminder, etc. So hopefully you can find things, but perhaps one of the best ways of ensuring that you can find things is to go and have a little look around and familiarise yourself and just see what's there. Usually any changes or new material put on there will be highlighted in a broadcast or explored in the Learning Wall if that's an appropriate place. Okay, hopefully this has been a useful tool